A provocative adult Hitchcockian thriller. It's The Ghostwriter by Roman Polanski, 2010 movie. Let me tell you why I think this is a forgotten classic, why you might be interested in it, and what's good about it coming up next. I watched The Ghostwriter in 2010 in a theater, and I was really pleasantly surprised by it, but unfortunately it's kind of disappeared. No one tends to remember it, so that's, to me, why it's a forgotten classic. I do not like Roman Polanski morally, but I think he's a great filmmaker, and this movie shows us an artist at the height of his powers who really knows how to delay thrills, how to build suspense, how to keep it very quiet and subtle. This movie, you may watch it and think, nothing's happening in it, it's too slow. That's going to be a common criticism of it, but you just have to wait for the end. This movie has one of the better, more exciting moments in movies I've ever seen because it waits and waits and waits. And then the final shot of this movie, it's in my top 100 final shots ever. And it just holds it for a long time, and what's in the frame, what's not is great. I really admire it, and every time I would watch this movie, I think of the final shot and know, even if I'm a little bored or uncertain about what's happening, or I think that some of the things in this movie are a little hokey, that final shot is going to be there at the end. So I suggest watching it just for that final shot. The movie stars Ewan McGregor as a ghostwriter, and he's a really good one, hired to write the memoirs of a former British Prime Minister, Adam Lang, here played by Pierce Brosnan.
Hi, Barry. Hi, Amelia. Hello. Who are you?
I'm your ghost.
Right.
Don't worry, he isn't always such a jerk.
He's going to get paid $250,000 to rewrite the memoirs of this prime minister. They've already been written by another ghostwriter who has apparently committed suicide, and that's left the manuscript sort of in shambles. It's a first draft manuscript that's got to be really altered. So our ghostwriter, the McGregor character, travels to a remote vacation home off the coast of Massachusetts on a very cool island with a really neat home. The setting of this movie is absolutely amazing. Great home, great beach location. You'll see it for over half the movie. When he's in this home, he sees that the manuscript is under total lockdown. He can't take it out of the home. The assistant, played by Kim Cattrall, is kind of mysterious. And then the Prime Minister's wife, Olivia Williams, she seems like a plain, wonderful person, but unfortunately she comes on to the Ewan McGregor character and what's a ghostwriter to do when that happens. Now, Adam Lang, played by Pierce Brosnan, is a mixed character. We see both the private and the public sides of him. As the ghostwriter shows up to revise the manuscript, a world event happens where Lang is indicted, or at least charged with, war crimes, and these have to do with Iraq War era type crimes where he's been involved in sanctioning the torture of supposed criminals, water torture included.
While I have breath in my body, I shall fight terrorism, whether it's on the battlefield or, if necessary, in the courts. Thank you very much.
Have you spoken to the president, Mr. Lang?
So while Adam Lang is undergoing a publicity crisis, the ghostwriter finds out some things he shouldn't find out and realizes that what's in the manuscript is not quite right, and what he wants to write in the manuscript would be a lie. One of the questions for this ghostwriter is, will he agree to the political narrative he's given, or will he really report the facts as they were in this memoir revision?
No, what I don't get is why at 22 he's suddenly a political activist. I mean, where does that come from?
Didn't you ask him?
He said he joined the party because of you. Told me a great story about you turning up at his place in the rain, and I was going to start the whole book with it.
And now you're not.
I know I can't. It's not true.
Now, besides being a sleek Hitchcockian thriller with some great moments, I love the acting in this movie, and as I said, the final shot. I really enjoy what I would call subtle humor. This movie is definitely not laugh out loud funny, but I'm amused by it. Its observations on writing, ghostwriting, and this apolitical character going into this political world and finding out some things he never would have dreamed. We begin the movie with the Ewan McGregor character saying he doesn't care about politics at all, but of course he voted for Adam Lang as Prime Minister because everybody did.
You realise I know nothing about politics.
You voted for him, didn't you?
Adam Lang, of course I did. Everyone voted for him. He wasn't a politician, he was a craze.
He appears to be one of these sheepish sorts of persons who does whatever the media tells him to do, or he just doesn't care about that sort of stuff. And as he goes along through the movie, his eyes are going to see new things. His understanding is going to increase. He's become a more political figure, entrenched political figure as he goes. And as he does so, he becomes more paranoid. He becomes a little suspicious, in fact, very suspicious of pretty much everybody in the movie. And he comes to find out, and I think we know this from the beginning, that the Ghost Rider probably didn't commit suicide. He was murdered. The Ghost Rider who he replaced learned something. What did he learn? The Ewan McGregor character might find out. One of the things he's going to discover, again, this is not a spoiler, and really this is Hitchcockian through and through. In fact, this movie harkens back to 1970s political thrillers. There's also some paranoid thrillers from the 1990s. They're all sort of coming together here in this movie. One of the things he realizes is that there are conspiracies. Conspiracies aren't unusual in world history. I know the word or term conspiracy theory is used to dismiss people, but all it means is a bunch of people getting together and not publicly announcing something and publicly discussing something, doing it in private, and they come to a decision. Well, this character is finding out that there are such things, that the CIA exists, and the CIA is involved in British politics. In fact, this movie seems to me to be an indictment of British political figures from the 2000s, the first decade of the 2000s, involved in the Iraq War. And I think Tony Blair, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, is the subject here. He seems to be the Adam Lang character in a way. He, of course, was involved in going along with the Iraq War, agreeing with George W. Bush, maybe sanctioning torture, allegedly. But the Abu Ghraib problem, Guantanamo Bay, water torture, illegal, detaining of alleged suspects, all kinds of nefarious things that were going on during the Iraq War era, comes to a height in this movie about 7 years after the Iraq War started, and just a couple of years after all kinds of terrible revelations about what these governments, the U.S. and Great Britain, have done in secret. The movie's idea of political conspiracies strike me as extremely realistic. In fact, they're not nutty at all. There's nothing. This isn't like Oliver Stone's JFK, where he throws out some crazy theory nobody could possibly believe, or is very unlikely at least. All this movie is really talking about is the CIA infiltration of a foreign state, and then a couple of characters being recruited by the CIA. That's basically it. Now, there's a couple of other issues in this movie, too, as far as secrets and conspiracies, but that's the stuff of basic, in fact, not even real movie stuff. But Polanski uses this very basic information, which pretty much anybody knows anyway, and builds a great thriller out of it, or at least a very fun thriller out of it. And I'm very amused by the Ghost Rider character. I mean, for one, he shows up and his publisher almost immediately says, I need you to finish this in 2 weeks, not 1 month, as we agreed. Well, he's got a 600-page manuscript, and to read that and revise it in 2 weeks, to me, seems impossible. Of course, he shows up in a world-shattering event that must be in his manuscript, and maybe the center of his manuscript, the accusation that Adam Lang is a war criminal. That's got to be in a finished manuscript. Well, the manuscript's already done. What's he to do? To leave out this new event? That wouldn't be right, except he needs to because he's working for Adam Lang, and it would be pretty tough to write in a bad event or something to make the figure look bad into the figure's memoir, which is supposed to make him look good. Plus, this Ghost Rider has replaced another writer who is dead. So what does he think's going to happen to him? Why was this Ghost Rider dead? He's going to find out. Another thing I liked about this movie is that ghosts haunt it. When you have a character who never appears one time and yet is a character, that is the former Ghost Rider who supposedly committed suicide. That character is palpable. He is in this movie and yet he never appears, which I really like. And that, my friends, corresponds to the final shot of the movie. I like Olivia Williams in this. I like the settings. I like the pacing of this movie. I can get bored by it, or I can think it's too slow. But because I was paying very close attention to political developments in the first decade of the 2000s, this movie definitely reminds me of all of the things happening in it. The war on terror is here in this entire movie. This is a good description of some of the thoughts and feelings of that very era. And I think Polanski has captured it, as well as everyone else who worked on this movie, captured it really well. What do you think of the Ghost Rider if you've seen it? Let us know in the comments. And please subscribe to this channel for more great content. Thank you. Have a great day.